I received an unexpected text from Jackson yesterday. 7 years of silence broken by a simple, "Hey Dad, how have you been?" My heart raced, a storm of emotions flooding in. Hope, confusion, suspicion. After my divorce from Amanda, both my kids chose her side, cutting me out of their lives, despite my countless attempts to stay connected. The rejection crushed me. Now suddenly, after news of my financial turnaround hit the local business journal, they want to reconnect. Coincidence? I wonder what I should do. As I share this painful journey with you today, I am curious where you are watching from. Drop a comment letting me know, and consider subscribing if you want to hear more real-life stories like mine. Before everything fell apart, I had what many would call the American dream. I was a 38-year-old software engineer, with a decent salary, married to Amanda for 15 beautiful years. We had two amazing kids, Jackson and Sophia, who were 21 and 19 now. But back then they were just my little buddies. Jackson was always the baseball star, and I never missed a game. Every Saturday morning we would go to the batting cages working on his swing until noon. Those moments watching his determination as he connected with the ball filled me with such pride. Sophia was my little artist. I built her a special desk in the corner of our family room where she could work on her sketches. I still remember the look on her face when I surprised her with professional drawing supplies for her 13th birthday. She hugged me so tight, whispering, "Thank you, Daddy," over and over. We had this ritual of Sunday afternoon art gallery visits, just the two of us. She would analyze every painting with such passion while I listened, amazed by her insights. I was never the perfect father, but I tried. I worked extra hours to save for their college funds, missed opportunities for promotion because they would have required travel. Everything I did was for them. Our home in the suburbs was modest but filled with laughter and love. Family game nights on Fridays, backyard barbecues in summer, and annual road trips to the Grand Canyon. Those memories kept me going through the darkest times that would follow. The first signs that something was wrong came gradually. Amanda started coming home later from her marketing job. Nothing dramatic at first, just 30 minutes here, an hour there. Her explanations seemed reasonable enough. Client meetings, traffic, working late to finish projects. I trusted her completely. Then came the password changes on her phone, the sudden interest in her appearance. New clothes, new hairstyle, new perfume. When I complimented her, she would smile distantly, as if my opinion was an afterthought. Our conversations grew shorter. When we did talk, she seemed distracted, her mind elsewhere. I suggested a weekend getaway to reconnect. She claimed she was too busy. I proposed marriage counseling. She said we were fine, just going through a phase. I planned a surprise anniversary dinner, but she called last minute saying she needed to work late. That night I sat alone at a restaurant table set for two, making excuses to the sympathetic waiter. I tried everything to save us. Date nights that she would cancel at the last minute. Thoughtful gifts she would acknowledge with a quick thank you before setting them aside. Love letters she never mentioned receiving. Looking back, I see I was fighting for something already lost, but at the time I believed love could conquer anything. On the night everything changed, I was using our shared laptop to pay bills. Amanda had left her email open. I never snooped, never had reason to, but a message preview caught my eye. The subject line read, "Last night was amazing." Sick to my stomach, I clicked it. The email was from Greg, her coworker. The one she had mentioned casually over the years. The one who had sent her flowers when she was sick. A gesture I had thought kind but slightly inappropriate at the time. The email detailed their encounter at the airport Marriott the previous night, in explicit terms that burned into my memory. It ended with, "Amanda, when are you going to leave him? We deserve to be together." My hands shook as I scrolled through their correspondence, finding hundreds of messages dating back 3 years. 3 years of lies. 3 years of me trying to save a marriage while she was building a life with someone else. I confronted her that night when she came home. She did not even try to deny it. In fact, there was almost relief in her confession, as if keeping the secret had been the only burden in our relationship. I did not yell. I did not break things. I simply asked, "Why?" Her answer haunts me still. "I outgrew you, Tony. Greg understands my ambitions. You were always content with mediocrity. 15 years reduced to a character flaw. All my sacrifices for our family labeled as lack of ambition." It felt like being stabbed by the person who had promised to protect your heart. I moved into the guest room that night. We agreed to tell the kids together to present a united front despite our broken union. but Amanda told them first alone. I only discovered this when Jackson stormed into my home office the next day, eyes red with anger and hurt. "Dad, how could you give up on our family?" he demanded. I was confused until I realized what had happened. Amanda had spun a narrative where I was the villain. According to her, I had checked out of the marriage, was no longer interested in being a family man, wanted my freedom. She had conveniently left out her 3-year affair. I tried to explain, to tell them the truth without vilifying their mother. But they had already formed their opinions. Sophia looked at me like I was a stranger. Jackson refused to make eye contact. When I reached for him, he stepped back, as if my touch might burn. Our divorce process was brutal. Amanda hired Leonard Brill, the most aggressive divorce attorney in the state. Despite her infidelity, she wanted the house primary custody and substantial alimony. Her reasoning: she had sacrificed her career advancement to raise our children, a claim that stung given my own career sacrifices. The legal fees drained my savings. Every motion, every filing, every court appearance chipped away at my financial stability. To avoid putting the kids through a protracted court battle, I agreed to terms that left me financially vulnerable. I surrendered our family home, agreed to generous child support, and took on a portion of our debt. I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment across town. The beige walls and secondhand furniture were a stark contrast to the home I had spent 15 years building. The first night there, I sat on my new bed and wept, for the first time since the whole ordeal began. Not for the house or the money, but for the family photos. I had forgotten to take the memories trapped in a home where I was no longer welcome. Despite the painful divorce, I believed my relationship with my children would survive. They were old enough to make their own judgments. Surely over time they would see the truth. That belief sustained me through those early months. Reality proved harsher. Jackson, 17 at the time, refused my calls and returned my letters unopened. When I would drive by his baseball games hoping to watch from a distance, he would notice me and deliberately turn away. Each rejection was like reopening a wound. Sophia, 15 then, was slightly more receptive. She would meet me occasionally for lunch, but our conversations were strained. She answered my questions with single words, checked her phone constantly, and always had an excuse to leave early. During one such lunch, she finally exploded. "You know what it is like at home now," she said, tears in her eyes. "Mom cries all the time. She has to work extra hours because you will not give her enough support. We had to cancel our summer vacation. Jackson might not be able to go to his dream college. All because you decided you did not want us anymore." I tried to explain the financial realities, how I was giving everything the court required, and more, but she did not want to hear it. She had accepted her mother's version of events completely. In her young mind, I had abandoned them for a more exciting life, leaving them to struggle. The final blow came when Jackson graduated high school. I had marked the date on my calendar the moment we got his acceptance letter before the divorce. I bought him an expensive watch engraved with a personal message. I arrived at the ceremony early, heart pounding with the hope of reconciliation. But my name was not on the guest list. Amanda had listed Greg as Jackson's father. When I tried to explain to the administrator, Jackson himself appeared and said coldly, "I did not invite you. Please do not make a scene." I watched my son graduate from my car in the parking lot, using binoculars to see him cross the stage. That night I drove past our old house and saw the celebration in full swing. Through the window, I could see Amanda, Greg, Sophia, Jackson, and all our extended family and friends. A complete family picture with me erased. The following months were a blur of increasing isolation. Friends from our married days gradually stopped calling. Some took Amanda's side explicitly. Others just found it easier to maintain one relationship instead of navigating the complicated waters of divorce loyalty. Family holiday gatherings became diplomatic nightmares, with relatives having to choose which event to attend. I tried everything to reconnect with my children. I sent birthday and Christmas gifts that were returned unopened. I emailed weekly updates about my life, receiving no response. I reached out to their friends, teachers, and our extended family, asking them to encourage Jackson and Sophia to give me a chance. Nothing worked. The emotional toll affected my work performance. I missed deadlines, made careless errors, and struggled to focus during meetings. My supervisor, initially understanding, grew impatient as months passed with no improvement. 1 year after my divorce, I was called into his office and gently let go. A severance package softened the blow financially, but the timing could not have been worse. With my income reduced to unemployment benefits meeting my child support, Obligations became nearly impossible. I sold my car, downgraded to an even smaller apartment, and picked up gig work delivering packages at night. Even then, I sometimes had to borrow money to make the full payments. I was determined never to give Amanda or my children the satisfaction of calling me a deadbeat dad. The isolation and stress led to depression. I stopped shaving, barely ate, and spent days staring at the wall, torturing myself with memories of happier times. The few friends who had stuck by me grew concerned when I stopped returning their calls. One night, Frank, my college roommate, used his spare key to check on me after I had been incommunicado for 2 weeks. He found me surrounded by empty takeout containers and unwashed clothes, looking at old family photos. I hit rock bottom 6 months later. Amanda had begun posting pictures of their happy blended family on social media. Greg teaching Jackson to drive his luxury car. Family vacations to destinations I could never afford to take them. Sophia leaning against her mother at a fashion show, both elegantly dressed. They all looked so happy, so complete without me. The final straw came when I discovered that Amanda had told the kids I had refused to contribute to their college funds. In reality, those accounts had been divided in the divorce, with my portion severely depleted by legal fees. I had been working multiple jobs trying to rebuild those funds, even as I struggled to keep up with regular support payments. One cold November night, I sat in my apartment with a photo album and a bottle of whiskey. For the first time, I questioned whether my children would be better off if I simply disappeared from their lives permanently. The thought terrified me enough to pour the alcohol down the drain and call a crisis hotline. The next day, I learned from a mutual acquaintance that Amanda and Greg had broken up. Apparently, his ambition had included a 24-year-old receptionist at their firm. Amanda was devastated but put on a brave face publicly. Strangely, this news gave me no satisfaction. Despite everything, I did not want her to experience the pain she had caused me. A week later, Jackson posted photos from a spring break trip to Europe. Luxury hotels in Paris, skiing in the Alps, dining at Michelin-starred restaurants. The trip had clearly cost thousands of dollars, money that Amanda alone could not provide on her marketing salary. I realized Greg must still be financially supporting them, perhaps out of guilt. The contrast between their lavish lifestyle and my struggle to afford basic necessities crushed whatever hope I had left. That night, sitting on my threadbare couch, I accepted that my children now saw me as nothing more than a financial obligation, a monthly check that was never quite enough. My life changed direction on an ordinary Tuesday morning at a downtown coffee shop. I was applying for yet another part-time job to supplement my warehouse night shifts when I heard someone call my name. Looking up, I saw Frank, my old college friend who had checked on me months earlier. Frank looked concerned at my appearance. The dark circles under my eyes, the weight loss, the untrimmed hair. Instead of empty sympathy, he offered something I desperately needed: perspective. "Tony," he said after hearing my update, "you cannot control how others treat you, but you can control how you respond. Your kids have been manipulated, yes. But what are you doing to create a life they might someday want to be part of?" His words hit me like a bucket of cold water. For 2 years, I had defined myself by what I had lost. My identity had become abandoned husband and rejected father. I had been waiting for external validation for my children to realize their mistake instead of rebuilding from within. That same day, I enrolled in an advanced programming course. Technology had evolved during my employment slump, and my skills needed updating. The course was expensive, forcing me to take on additional delivery shifts, but it reignited my passion for coding. For the first time since the divorce, I had something to focus on besides my losses. 3 months later, I landed a junior developer position at a growing tech firm. The salary was less than my previous job, but it offered something more: valuable opportunity. I threw myself into the work, volunteering for challenging projects, staying late to learn from senior developers, and contributing ideas during team meetings. Outside of work, I began the slow process of rebuilding my life. I joined a support group for divorced fathers, where I found men with stories remarkably similar to mine. Their solidarity helped me see that my experience, while painful, was not unique. More importantly, some had successfully reconnected with their children, giving me a blueprint for potential reconciliation. Physical health became a priority. I started with simple morning runs, then added strength training. Each small improvement in my fitness translated to increased energy and mental clarity. The discipline of regular exercise provided structure when my life felt chaotic. Therapy was the hardest step. Admitting I needed professional help to process my grief and anger felt like failure initially. My therapist, Dr. Martinez, helped me understand that my children's rejection was not entirely personal. They were navigating their own pain influenced by the parent who had daily access to them. This perspective did not erase the hurt but made it more bearable. 1 year into my new job, an unexpected opportunity arose. A client mentioned a persistent software issue affecting their business. Over a weekend, I developed a simple application that solved their problem. The client was impressed enough to introduce me to a friend who ran a tech investment firm. That introduction led to a meeting which led to a small investment in developing my solution into a full-fledged product. I continued working my day job while spending evenings and weekends on my startup. The dual workload was exhausting but exhilarating. For the first time since the divorce, I felt purpose beyond survival. The application gained traction slowly at first. Small businesses appreciated its functionality, but wanted additional features. I reinvested every dollar of profit into improvements, working with a small team of freelancers to expand capabilities. 18 months in, we reached a critical mass of features and users. Then came the breakthrough. A major tech corporation expressed interest in acquiring my application to integrate with their existing business solutions. The negotiations were intense, with several sleepless nights as we hammered out details. When we finally signed the agreement, the acquisition price was $12 million. After taxes and payouts to my small team and early investors, I walked away with $7 million. The financial security was life-changing, but the validation of my work meant even more. I had created something valuable from the ashes of my old life. I upgraded to a beautiful house in a prestigious neighborhood, invested the majority of my windfall with financial advisors, and made anonymous donations to causes supporting mental health initiatives for men. I also established a scholarship fund at the local community college for single parents returning to education. News of my success spread gradually. A local business journal ran an article about the acquisition, featuring my journey from corporate employee to successful entrepreneur. Former colleagues reached out with congratulations, including some who had distanced themselves after my divorce. During a popular technology podcast interview, I discussed not just the technical aspects of my application, but the personal growth that accompanied my professional reinvention. The host, impressed by my candor, invited me for a longer personal interview about overcoming adversity. That episode went viral within tech circles, expanding awareness of my transformation. 6 months after the acquisition, while settling into my new role as a consultant for the purchasing company, I received the text from Jackson that had been both longed for and dreaded. "Hey, Dad, how have you been?" 2 days later, Sophia called. Her voice, more mature than I remembered, carried the same tentative overture. "We should catch up sometime," she suggested, as if we had simply been busy rather than estranged for 7 years. Neither mentioned my financial situation directly, but there were telling signs. Jackson asked about my work, seeming particularly interested in investment opportunities. Sophia mentioned her graduate school ambitions and the competitive program she hoped to attend, emphasizing its considerable cost. I invited them both to my new home, setting the meeting for the following Saturday. As the day approached, I experienced a hurricane of emotions: hope that reconciliation might be possible, fear that I would be rejected again, and most troublingly, suspicion about their motives. They arrived together, both looking older than the mental images I had preserved. Jackson now sported a beard, while Sophia had adopted a sophisticated style, reminiscent of her mother. Their initial reactions to my home were revealing. Jackson whistled appreciatively at my car collection visible in the open garage. Sophia commented on the original artwork adorning my walls. Our conversation began awkwardly with superficial updates about their lives. Both were struggling financially. Jackson had completed his business degree but was working an entry-level position with limited prospects. Sophia wanted to pursue a Master of Fine Arts but lacked the necessary funds. Amanda, they reluctantly revealed, was no longer receiving support from Greg and had downsized significantly. As we moved to my terrace overlooking the city, Jackson finally broached the subject. "Dad, you obviously know a lot about successful investments now. I could really use some guidance. I have some savings I want to grow." Sophia was more direct. "Graduate programs are so expensive now. Mom says she cannot help much. I was wondering if you might consider." I interrupted gently. "Before we discuss financial matters, I would like to talk about the last 7 years. The birthdays, holidays, and milestones I missed. The calls and texts that went unanswered. The gifts returned unopened. Their responses were revealing. Jackson blamed busy schedules and miscommunication. Sophia suggested I could have tried harder to stay in touch. Neither acknowledged their active role in shutting me out. When I showed them the folder containing copies of every message card and email I had sent over the years, their excuses faltered. When I played the saved voicemails of me wishing them happy birthday year after year, Sophia looked away. When I showed bank statements documenting every support payment, including the extra amounts I sometimes added despite my own financial struggles, Jackson's expression shifted from confidence to shame. "Did you know," I asked quietly, "that I worked 3 jobs at one point to keep up with child support while trying to rebuild your college funds?" They had not known, or had chosen not to know. In the silence that followed, I realized that the children I had loved and lost were still there, but buried beneath layers of misinformation and material expectation. The path to authentic reconnection, if possible at all, would be longer and more complex than a single conversation. That afternoon with my children ended without the emotional reunion I had once dreamed about. Instead, it concluded with careful, measured plans for moving forward. I did not reject them, but I did establish clear boundaries. I explained that trust once broken must be rebuilt gradually. We would start with regular family dinners every other Sunday. Not at restaurants or my home, but at a neutral community center where I volunteered teaching coding to underprivileged youth. I wanted them to see this part of my life, to understand that my identity extended beyond my ability to provide financially. Regarding their financial requests, I proposed alternatives to direct support. For Jackson, I offered to connect him with entry-level positions at tech companies where I had contacts, but only if he completed additional training courses first. For Sophia, I created a matching fund for her graduate education, where I would contribute $1 for every dollar she saved through work. Their initial reactions were mixed. Jackson seemed disappointed that I would not simply write a check or provide investment shortcuts. Sophia appeared conflicted, recognizing the fairness of my approach, while frustrated by its demands. Both left that day with homework to reflect on what they truly wanted from our relationship beyond material support. The weeks that followed tested everyone's commitment. Jackson missed our first scheduled dinner, citing work obligations. Sophia came, but spent much of the time on her phone. I maintained my composure, neither pleading for their attention nor expressing disappointment. This was a marathon, not a sprint. By the third dinner, subtle changes emerged. Jackson arrived with questions about my coding journey, showing genuine interest in my professional path. Sophia brought sketches to show me tentatively reopening our artistic connection. Small moments of authentic engagement glimmered amidst the awkwardness. 3 months into our cautious reunion, I introduced them to Elaine. She and I had met at a charity event, 6 months before Jackson's text. A pediatric surgeon with her own history of family complexity, Elaine understood my situation without judgment. Her presence added a new dimension to our family dinners, her natural warmth and insight helping to ease tensions. The first time Jackson laughed genuinely at one of my jokes, I felt a crack in the wall between us. The afternoon, Sophia called just to share good news about an art submission without any financial subtext represented another small breakthrough. These moments were precious, but precarious, the foundation of trust still fragile. Throughout this period, I continued my own healing journey. Weekly therapy sessions helped me navigate the complex emotions of reconnection. The support group remained a safe space to process disappointments and celebrate small victories. Regular meditation practice gave me tools to stay present during difficult conversations, rather than being hijacked by past hurt. 1 year after our initial reunion, we faced our first significant test. Amanda contacted me directly, for the first time in years, asking for financial assistance due to unexpected medical bills. My initial impulse was resentment, the familiar anger threatening to resurface. Instead, I responded with firm compassion. I would pay a portion of the bills directly to the medical provider, but would not give her money directly. More importantly, I spoke with Jackson and Sophia honestly about the situation, neither vilifying their mother nor allowing myself to be positioned as the default solution to financial problems. Their response revealed our progress. Both appreciated my transparency and recognized the boundaries as healthy rather than punitive. Jackson even acknowledged that he had enabled his mother's financial dependence, in some ways, a level of insight that would have been impossible months earlier. As our relationship slowly healed, I maintained perspective about its limitations. We would never recover the years lost. Certain wounds would always leave scars. I would never be the central father figure I had once been, and they would never be the adoring children of my memory. Instead, we were building something new, an adult relationship based on honesty and mutual respect rather than obligation or financial advantage. Today, our connection continues to evolve. Jackson recently completed the coding bootcamp I recommended and secured a promising position through his own merits. Sophia has earned half of her graduate tuition through a combination of part-time work and a competitive scholarship. Both achievements matter not for the money saved, but for the self-reliance fostered. The most significant change has been in our conversations. Financial topics, once the uncomfortable subtext of every interaction, now represent just one aspect of our multifaceted relationship. We discuss books, politics, aspirations, and disappointments. We disagree sometimes vigorously but respectfully. We are learning to be family again differently but perhaps more authentically than before. Through this journey, I have learned that true value cannot be measured in dollars. The painful years of rejection taught me self-worth beyond external validation. The financial success that followed demonstrated that reinvention is always possible. The complicated reconnection with my children revealed that authentic relationships require honesty and boundaries, not just biological ties or material provision. I do not know if our relationship will ever fully heal. Some breaks leave permanent damage. But I do know that my worth is not determined by their acceptance, my success not validated by their approval. That has been the most expensive and valuable lesson of this entire journey. If you have experienced family estrangement or reconciliation, I would love to hear your story in the comments. What boundaries have you found helpful in rebuilding broken relationships? Please like this video if you found value in my experience, subscribe for more real-life stories about family dynamics, and share with someone who might be facing similar challenges. Remember that your worth is never defined by those who left, only by your courage to rebuild. Thank you for listening, and I wish you strength in your own journey of healing.